Welcome to Straight No Chaser. We are here with episode 12, and our guest today is Andy. How you doing today?
Pretty good. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of
Yeah,
course.
absolutely. So tell us a little bit about yourself. Where do you go to school? What year you're in? What you're studying? Anything you feel like is important.
So, I am a senior psychology major at Salve Regina University. We're in Newport, Rhode Island, so right along the beach. I'm literally like 3 minutes from the ocean, which is pretty sweet. Um, I also play on the softball team there, pretty established team, which is awesome. And I'm part of a lot of the holistic clubs, so we focus on like mindfulness, meditation, mental health, a lot of the things that aren't really talked about, which is really awesome to bring light to that. So yeah,
That's awesome. And what position do you play on the softball team?
I'm a pitcher.
Nice,
Oh,
nice. That's super cool. Um, so I think everyone here at least has seen that you've been doing a lot of marketing. Could you tell us a little bit maybe about the company and the product line that you market on Instagram and if it ties into any of the topics?
Yeah, absolutely. So recently, it's been about a year-ish. I started using the Bourdain products, which like I had a personal experience that helped me kind of use that to help other people. And it's like the number one skincare in North America. It's not really talked about, so we try to advertise it as much as we can. Um, Basically, there are a ton of different lines for different skin types. I know a lot of people aren't aware of I don't know if you've heard of like Proactive, but the doctors who were behind Proactive kind of like sold off that business and created something a little bit more in depth and more complex. So it was for more types of skin, and even I know specifically for women, like enhancing your eyelashes or like your eyebrows, things that really men don't talk about, but little things that help make women feel a little bit more beautiful, I guess, but without doing it in like really strange ways. You know, we're not trying to have like fake eyelashes or whatnot, but it's just to help people with like skin
yeah.
and enhance any natural features you already have. So we've been pretty big on social media because, especially now in a pandemic, we're not going to be door to door, and already our company isn't sold in stores. We are all online, which is super helpful because when people order things, we actually place the order ourselves and we ship it directly to their houses, so they don't have to worry about anything. It's very easy, and it's also really good for college kids. It's hard being a college student. All of you probably know we're pretty broke, to be blunt.
Yeah.
But not only are we
Unfortunately.
doing this, exactly,
Yeah, the struggle
yeah.
is real.
We're not poor,
Exactly.
we're broke.
Yeah, we're dead broke. Dead broke. No, but it's really great because not only am I doing it to like help me pay for like random things that I would normally not pay out of pocket, but I also have friends who I've seen struggle with like self confidence, and I know how difficult it is to be, insecure about certain things that you really can't control. But helping people with those kind of things is awesome for me because, like I said, I'm a psych major. I know how mental health is. I know how confidence is, and little things like that can really change your perspective. So
Yeah.
I just want everyone to be happy with themselves and hopefully gain a little bit more insight with that.
I'm actually taking
Absolutely.
a management course right now, and we're talking about like how can we shape like better leaders in organizations. And
Mhm.
mindfulness was actually something I stumbled upon with like TED Talks and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah,
Yes. Yeah,
I was just wondering like what kind of stuff would you recommend? Like, what kind of like do you do like mindfulness exercises, and like what do you do?
I do. So it's funny. There are a lot of different avenues you can go down. Being an athlete and being someone who is very aware of like their health, I've
Yeah,
gone down like mindful eating, mindful communication, just like literally in general, just being very aware of myself, being in tune with who I am, what I need, how I can approach others, understanding people, and um, one of the biggest things is to be super introspective. um, Taking the time to understand like why we do what we do and how we can connect with others on like a spiritual level. Honestly, mindfulness for me, like, I know spending a lot of alone time, it sounds kind of like isolated, but it's not. I swear it's helpful. But learning about yourself can teach you a lot about other people because, humans are very similar and we don't really talk about it. A lot of us are dealing with the same things. And the more you understand your own dilemmas and your own thoughts and processes and behavior patterns, the better you can connect and communicate with people around you. So honestly, kind of like analyzing your behavior, analyzing your thoughts, but not being like judgmental, I guess I would say. So just being very accepting, understanding, and like listening really well, I guess would be like pretty simple approaches to mindfulness as well as like meditating
Yeah.
because the world is stressful enough. So honestly, taking like 10 to 15 minutes a day to just be at peace, like in a very quiet area and just focusing your inner thoughts in one area can really help you. I'm part of a club. I'm on the board for a mindfulness and wellness club, and we've had like 4 meditations so far. And some people are like, oh, meditation doesn't really work, like, it's not really a huge thing. But people have literally had like out of body experiences, and it's crazy until you've done it yourself. You can't really understand what it's like until you're in that zone of consciousness where you're like watching yourself doing the meditating, and it's so weird to explain because I feel like I'm crazy saying it to you guys, but you truly have like a huge understanding when you start to calm your mind and be in like a very safe space. It's very helpful to connect with other people as well.
Yeah.
I was actually thinking about, like you said, alone time can teach you a lot about yourself and other people. For some reason, I can stay up a lot longer, like at night, if I'm alone than when I'm with other people. I guess it's kind of because there's like a social contract where you guys have to be in an obligation to talk about something that you have shared interest in, and when you're alone, you can kind of learn more about yourself, as in like you can do whatever you want. So that's kind of nice. But yeah, I don't know. It's just something I thought about when you mentioned it.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I totally, that like alone time thing, like I just, whenever I have time throughout the day, I prefer to spend it alone.
Yeah. Does that make us
I kind
bad
of agree
people,
with that.
good people, or just...
No, I kind of I think it's like, I think for me at least personally, I think a lot of people agree with this. It's nice to have like a healthy balance of being around other people and then
Yeah.
getting that time for yourself, because I feel like if you're around other people sometimes too much, you kind of like, I don't know, sometimes like people, being around people you care a lot about, I've noticed sometimes the more you're around them, the more you tend to like find conflict. And then like when you get some time, like friends mainly, but like if you get some time to kind of like distance yourself a little bit, you can kind of you can think about how you can make yourself better and how you can kind of make your interactions with those people better. So I feel like I need like a good balance throughout my day and week of alone time and like social time.
Mm-hmm. Especially because I know for me personally, it's so difficult to explain exactly how I am because I am very like introverted, but I'm extremely extroverted. I'm like ambivert, I guess I would say. Like I can do both, but there are moments when I'm like, okay, I've been around people for 12 hours and I am just emotionally exhausted and I need to be alone for like the entire day.
Yeah.
And I don't think it makes us bad people for wanting to be alone because when you think about it, you go on social media sometimes, like we have that mindless scrolling of just like looking at people. And then you go to class or you have online class and you're talking to people again. Like everywhere you go, there's always interaction. So I feel like when you are able to kind of take a step back and separate yourself from like a huge crowd, you kind of you appreciate your alone time and your solitude and you're like, okay, I can be more comfortable with myself, and then you're not trying to like grab anyone's attention. You're not impressing people. You're okay with being alone, and it's a healthy balance because all of us, everyone wants to feel welcomed and you want to feel included. But the moment you step back and you're like, does this really serve me? Like, do I really need to be doing all these things? You kind of appreciate yourself and your life. And I always use this term like dating myself or dating yourself. You need to like figure out who you are and who you want to be around, and I don't know, I think it helps your mental health so much to be able to give yourself that healthy balance between like your social life and your own time with like who you are and your inner thoughts, and have the rest of your day to yourself.
Yeah.
I agree with that completely. Actually, I really can relate to that.
I'm actually kind of glad you brought up social media, because like I feel like because of social media, that's making us as individuals kind of lose mindfulness. Like taking time throughout the day to like, it takes focus to clear your thoughts. It takes focus to absorb everything around you. And like, I mean, my kind of way of being mindful is just walking. I just like, do you think social media has an impact on that? You're a lot more well-read, I think, on this than I would be.
Yeah, 100%. I agree with that completely. It's funny because some days I like delete the app completely, regardless of whatever social media app is. Like I found myself delete Instagram or delete Snapchat, and I'm like, do these people really talk to me every day unless I'm on this app? Like my closest friends come to me, or they call me, or they text me. I'm like, I know a lot of people, and I know I might follow some people that I'm not talking to regularly, but when I'm on social media, sometimes I'm getting like negative approaches from people, and I'm like, why? Like, why do I follow them, or why am I on social media? Why am I mostly scrolling through this Kim Kardashian thing that I don't even care about? Like, it's funny because we do things and we will waste like 15 minutes, and we have no idea that 15 minutes went by. But when you take a minute, like I've during quarantine, and this is gonna sound really morbid, so I apologize in advance, but when COVID occurred, I was almost like kind of relieved. Like, I felt like the burden of stress and of like the world and of responsibilities and expectations were just like lifted off my shoulders. Not only was I a captain of my softball team, but I was dealing with like a ton of work and just like so much going on. I also had a job and just like personal life, like we all have things that we're going through. And for me, it was like quarantine was like, hey, by the way, like you can relax. Like all these things are just gonna like pause for a moment, and you're gonna have some alone time. You're gonna have some downtime. You're gonna have time to go back to your roots and do those things that maybe you didn't do in the past. Like I did arts and crafts. I read books. I cleaned more than I normally would because I had time to clean. Like all these little things we take for granted.
Yeah.
But when you are given like 8 hours because like COVID has restricted so many things, you almost forget what it's like to have a choice to do things. Like we're so mindless, and we think we have choices in all these day-to-day activities, but we're like programmed little robots just going through life just because we can.
Yeah.
We're just like, it's almost like purposeless. But when COVID hit, I found myself doing more like meaningful things. I was more in tune with what I was eating, with how I was moving. And it wasn't moving for like impressing people. It was like, it feels really great to go for a walk outside, to lay in the grass when there's like a sunny day. It was just very little things that normally we take for granted. Instead of going out and partying, I was like, I want to stay in my room and read a book that I read in high school that I don't remember. Like I remember I read Tuesdays with Morrie. I know all you guys from Londonderry read that, and I was like, oh, I didn't read that. I didn't remember what it was like to enjoy a good book without having to read it for class. Like I feel like we take all these things for granted, and social media being one of them. There are so many things that influencers are putting out there, and we're always just absorbing all these like really negative things. But for me, COVID like hit, and I was like, all right, no social media. Like, and if I was gonna do social media, I was gonna put out really positive content, not just to like impress my followers, but because I genuinely like resonated with whatever it was I was reading, and I was like, if it hit me that deep, maybe someone else will say, hey, this made me smile today, or oh, that's so true. Like I don't know why I didn't think of that. So for me, I've kind of taken like I've turned a leaf, and I've decided to continue to roll with like the wholesomeness as COVID started, and just kind of continue with that path. So I've definitely agreed. Social media is not the most positive thing for us in regard to mindfulness. If anything, it's really in our connections, which is so sad, but it's sad truth.
I actually read somewhere. Well, I was just gonna say real quick with social media. I read somewhere, because that has to do with what you were saying. I read somewhere that like our brains actually like aren't really like wired to process like as much information at the rate that we're getting it now from social media.
Yeah.
Like we like to like we're kind of wired to like focus on things and really look into them deeper. That's why we have had so many like intellectuals throughout history. But like with social media now, it's like boom, there's this news, boom, this person posted this, boom, and it kind of that I think I've heard several theories that I think I agree. I think that's kind of why it seems that more and more people these days are becoming more kind of self-conscious about themselves and more about like kind of their image and kind of more anxious. I feel like it's becoming more and more common now than it ever has before, and I feel like social media has kind of exaggerated that.
Definitely. It's like an addiction.
I'm also
And on the flip side, go for it. On the flip side, I just wanted to mention this real quick. Is like I think that social media has like usefulness if you use it the proper way. Like Andy, marketing a product makes a lot of sense. Like if you have real influence and you limit how much intake you have from other people, I think it can be used as a productivity tool instead of like something that actually hampers your life. Like I don't have Twitter anymore. I got rid of Twitter. I don't have like TikTok. I think like those two platforms specifically, they don't give me anything that actually like allows me to make meaningful connections. Snapchat, I guess you could argue for or against, same with Instagram, but LinkedIn is like a crucial one, I think anyway. So I guess there's like if you're maximizing utility in social media, you can turn it into an overall good, but not everyone does.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's depending on the way you approach it. I mean, if you're using it for negative ways, then obviously it's not going to help you, but it can be very beneficial if you're using it to your advantage. So I agree.
You know who I don't understand? The people who use Twitter. Wasn't a bunch of
Were
like
you
honestly
just
a bunch
one of them like a month ago, bro?
No, probably like a year and a half ago.
Well, you know,
like,
what I will
dude,
say is
Twitter's
some places
so toxic.
it's
Yeah.
kind of a cesspool, but like some places want like for me as like because I'm a journalism major, I write articles, so they like want me like for Suffolk Journal, for example, they want me to make a Twitter, and I like other places like because apparently a lot of like public figures or just people who like it's a good way to get out your work like that, so they're like, oh, add your Twitter to the end of the article. But the thing is, I would do that just for like post something and never go on the app again the rest of the day because I
Don't
feel
even
like
read your comments, dude.
I feel like that's
Honestly.
where so many like feuds and controversies they all arise from Twitter and like
Twitter
it
and the YouTube
There's
comments.
actually, Andy, you might have actually heard of this guy, Ron Johnson. Or is it John Ronson? It's Sean Ronson. Have you heard of him? Yeah, he's like...
I think that's the name. I'm not too familiar, but I've definitely heard the name.
He's like he's like big into like psychology, and he's like a pretty like he's a British author, and like he has like a TED talk on like cancel culture through Twitter, and like he also he writes a book exploring the like neurological links between like CEOs and psychopaths. I forget what it's called. Yeah, it's yeah, he has some really interesting stuff. I haven't actually read it. I do want to get into some of his stuff though.
Yeah, they make some pretty wild connections. You know, there are some things that I don't have a lot of familiarity with, but whole like brain and like how you can predict people's like disposition is incredible. I definitely would like love to read more about that, or even just like watch TED Talks. I know they're so fun to watch. That's like what I do. It's so nerdy. I literally watch TED Talks on Friday nights. My friends are like, "Do you want to go to the bar?" I'm like, I was watching TED Talk.
Honestly,
By the way,
it's a good
I
way
have
to
a good
spend your
question
time.
here. I have a good question. So, what advice would you give someone who's struggling with either mental or physical health during COVID-19? General advice.
That's a great question. So, my number one advice, first of all, I would say you're doing the best you can with what you know. Because a lot of us are not familiar with what we need to do because it's not talked about. And it's sad. Because especially like physical health, we talk about fads and diets and eating disorders, and like our culture is just so messed up when it comes to like appearance, and it's really sad. And mental health really ties into that. I think they both are hand in hand. You know, for me, I'm a holistic psychology major. You know, everything we study is mind, body. Like those intertwine. They're integrated. Everything you do has to do with your brain and your body. So my first advice would be do a little bit of research. Get to know who you are, like your body type. I know it sounds really weird, but like your blood type. There are different ways you can eat that are better for your body, because what works for someone who is like an influencer who's fit and like doing everything they can do, it's not going to work for the next woman or man. Like you can go online. I know TikTok people love to say, hey, 12-minute abs and you're going to have like a great body. That's not real. Like, let's be, you can't target your muscles.
Yeah.
Like, that's not a real thing.
Yeah.
I would just say.
No, continue.
No.
Continue.
I would just say do a little research. Be kind to yourself, because again, the world is really harsh when it comes to body and mentality, and just make little goals. Like, I know for me personally, something I struggle with is like overachieving. I've always been that way, but I like to make sticky notes of like quotes that are really important to me, or I'll write little daily goals, something that I know I can promise myself and I can achieve it. Like, drink a glass of water. Like, I know I can do that, but some days are harder than others, and some people, it takes a lot for them to even shower or like brush their teeth or wash their face. Like, if you can make a small goal and you can promise yourself you're going to do it and then you achieve it, you're like building your relationship with yourself, and you're like, okay, maybe I can get more confident with these things, and I can build up to like going for a walk every morning. So just being kind to yourself and understanding that it doesn't happen overnight is like the biggest message I would send across. And then obviously be more mindful about your food choices. I don't believe in like, oh, this food is bad, this food is good. I believe in this is less optimal for my health, this is more optimal for my health. And I don't say I can't eat this food. It's not the best option for what my goal is. If you're looking to do this, if you're looking to lose weight, if you're looking to maintain your weight, there are a lot of different approaches. I think the number one being like changing your communication with yourself. Like, take out the negative language, take out the good, bad, take out the word should. I try to take like should out of my vocabulary. I should do this, I shouldn't have done that. Like, I did what I knew was best in that situation. So a lot of the way you talk to yourself is like a huge game changer. And one thing that not many people talk about, and this can go for like depression, anxiety, a lot of mental health issues that, again, aren't really talked about. You can literally restructure your brain just by the way you talk to yourself. Like, talking negatively, talking positively, talking like how you would to a little kid. When you think of yourself, like, talk to yourself like a little kid in a positive way, your brain will literally transform and become less like anxious. And I wish I had like a diagram, or I had a structure to show you guys, but the way that your neurotransmitters are being connected, like when you talk to yourself in a positive way, everything like lights up, and your brain is actually, there's less like gray space in there, so you're not as depressed and having those like really intrusive thoughts about day-to-day things. So that's definitely my number one, like, communication with yourself specifically.
Yeah.
That's a good tip, actually.
I had a really similar experience from COVID, that like I started putting effort into all these things. Like, I asked myself, like, what habits do I want that I haven't like had before, and that's just kind of what I want to start. And I've kept up through college now, like through starting everything. I make the time for those things.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, mainly just working out and cooking. Those are the only two things. But I played a ton of video games too, and like, so balanced out a bit.
Have a balance.
But speaking of like food and cooking, I was just kind of curious as to like how do you kind of develop like a nutrition plan or like routine meals, kind of, because I feel like in college that's really hard to do.
Oh my god, it's so hard.
Yeah.
For me specifically, so I've been an athlete my whole life, and I was having really strange experiences when working out. So I like grew a curiosity for why I was feeling like so sick and ill. You know, I had been working out, like, I mean, I would consider myself to be a very in shape person and pretty healthy. I don't really eat like junk food, I guess you could call it. I was just experiencing really strange like symptoms when I would work out, and I was like, what the heck? Like I'm doing everything right. And like I said, a lot of things that are right might not be right for the next person, and that was me. I ended up taking like a sensitivity test for food to see what I was eating that might not have been helpful for me. And it turns out that everything that I thought was healthy was like the number one thing on my list that was like hurting my body. So that was a really hard thing to change, especially because it was like eggs, dairy, gluten, like everything that everyone wants to eat. So I was like, well, we gotta do like a major turnaround and clean out all the food that is not going to be helping me in any way. Um, but my number one step was, especially when I had a food plan, like a meal plan at my dining hall, because luckily I live on a house off campus, so I do have a kitchen. This is my second year having a kitchen, not having to deal with the low grade food in the dining hall.
Yeah.
So I've definitely gotten an easy way out. I do shop for like fresh food and like meats, lean meats, grains. I'm pretty clean with my diet, but when I was in the dining hall, it was especially difficult because being gluten free, you really have to be careful because you know dining halls have like pizza and mac and cheese, and you don't even know what the mac and cheese is made of. It just looks like mac and cheese, so it's like every corner of the food that looks good, you're like, oh god, I don't know if I even trust that it's gluten free.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of research on how I could come up. So my dining hall is called Miley. So I kind of came up with a little plan called like Miley Hacks, and I would find like the most nutritious options. So there was always chicken. We had a Mongolian grill. So I found out like, okay, if I use a grain, like if I have rice or vegetables or a meat, that's perfect. I don't need to go for the pizza. I don't need to go for the french fries or like the chicken or like the chicken nuggets on Friday. Like they all sound so appealing, but they were making me so sick. So I took it upon myself to really do some research, find out if this is the like level of nutrition I'm given, then I might as well find the parts of the like meal plan that are actually going to benefit me. So even though it's like low grade food, I was finding the best things that were going to help me. So like I said, I had like staples in my diet, like rice, I would have chicken or I'd have like beef. And sometimes when we had shrimp, I'd have shrimp. But it's just being very disciplined.
Yeah.
Like there's cake, there's muffins, there's a ton of food that catches your eye and you're like, oh, that looks so good, but I know it's not good for me. I know it's going to make me sick. So a lot of that just, like I said, it literally comes down to mindfulness and how much you're gonna, be willing to be better than your excuses, because we all have excuses, and it just comes to, are you gonna show up for yourself? Are you gonna be disciplined? Are you gonna, how much do you want to be healthy? How well do you want to feel? Do you want to feel better than the food you're being tempted with? Like, it just came down to that for me. And then with cooking, now that I have my own kitchen, I have fresh food, like frozen fruits. I've just been very, very clean with what I eat. I mean, I'm not like restricted at all. I still eat things like cookies and like gluten-free food in the like terms of like junk food.
Yeah.
But I've like gotten better. I don't like splurge with food. I even like mindfulness with eating comes down to like putting your fork down in between each bite so your brain can make the connection to your stomach that this food is actually digested. And I feel like people will eat in like 5 minutes. Like I give myself time to sit down. I don't put my phone in my front of my face. I'm like literally mindful when I'm chewing. Like chewing 3 bites on the left side, so I'm knowing that this food is going to be digested. Like it sounds really silly, but all these things will train your stomach to like actually shrink down to the size that it's supposed to be, because a lot of us will think we're so hungry and we'll like snack on something and just like shove food in our mouth, but then after that you're like, oh my gosh, I'm still so hungry, because your brain hasn't been able to say like, hey, I'm not hungry anymore. I'm going to send the message to your gut that you're still hungry. But if you're eating and you're taking slow bites and you're chewing and you're mindfully separating your food and you're putting your fork down and you're doing all these little things, your brain can communicate with those other, like it can respond well and your stomach can get the message like, hey, you're done eating food, you're not hungry. Like I only eat until I'm like 80% full because it gives me like that 20% to be like, hey, you don't need this extra food, you're actually full and it's gonna make you feel sick. So it's just a lot of like knowing little things. And again, this stuff is not talked about ever.
Yeah.
I only learned it because I took it upon myself to do the research, but they make a huge difference. Or even like drinking a glass of water before you eat food, like it really does change. And it's just all about educating yourself.
Yeah, like not chewing your food can lead to like serious digestion problems and everything. Yeah.
Yeah.
On top of that, the power you chew with, you can mess up your jaw if you like press down too hard. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. My parents are
Any
all
favorite-
about reminding me about that crap.
Any favorite
Mhm.
foods? Any power foods that you love?
Yeah, I love kale. It sounds so bland and boring, but I've gotten into like sautéing a lot of vegetables together. A lot of people are like huge on superfoods, and not to say it's like a load of crap because it's not. I do believe in like superfoods and all that fun stuff, but honestly, just getting vegetables like green leafy greens, spinach, kale, Brussels sprouts. I know they're all like the foods that as a kid you're like, oh no, I don't want to eat those. They're so gross. But just learn how to season food. And not
Yeah.
like a bunch of cheese and that like gross stuff. I mean like really season your food, like garlic or oregano or literally anything other than like butter and salt. Like that's not real seasoning.
You'd
I
be
know as kids-
offending Chef Ramsay right now.
I think you're offending all of France right now.
But it's so true. Like people, I feel like it's just again, a lot of these things are just not talked about, and it's America's like system of education where
Yeah.
we can them for everything.
Definitely.
But just kale and learning how to season it. I usually do like I saute kale, tomatoes, zucchini, like anything that I know has like water base because again like we need to be hydrated in every aspect. So I like to get creative too. I try not to eat meat all the time. Not that meat will kill me, but red meat isn't necessarily that good for you. I eat a lot of chicken. I eat a lot of like beans, kidney beans, lentils, anything that I can avoid. I'm not vegan, but some days I'm like, oh, I'm gonna have a vegan meal for dinner because it's probably gonna help me a little bit better. But creativity, learn how to cook stuff other than eggs and pancakes. That'll help you in life.
I had another question actually. What is your take on adding like supplements into your diet as someone who works out a lot and is athletic? Like what would you say is like a because I've tried different supplements for working out, such as different things like whey protein or plant-based protein or creatine. I was wondering if you had like looked into it, done any research, and what you would recommend.
Yeah, I've actually done a lot of research on that. Good question.
Thank you.
So being gluten-free and dairy-free, I personally can't have whey because that protein comes from dairy, so it does not settle well with my stomach. I like plant-based. I would recommend it to anyone and everyone, regardless of like your digestive issues. I just think plant-based is a lot better for like your gut. I know some people are going to be like, yeah, plant-based, like that's a load of crap, don't listen to her. This is from experience. I've literally used whey and I've used plant-based, and I don't know how men feel about this. Like bloating after you eat, that's a very normal thing. It's not just like women who are like, oh, I'm bloated. When you eat food and you can feel your stomach literally like protruding, that's not a good thing. That doesn't mean you're full. It means that your intestines are literally like inflamed. Like that's not a good sign. Plant-based is really good for reduced inflammation. Supplements in general, I don't necessarily agree with having a lot of supplements. I try to get my daily like vitamins and minerals from food. But don't get me wrong, like I do have protein powder and I do have like amino acids and like L-glutamine, and I use those, but I don't rely on them. I think as long as you have a healthy balance between getting those rich things from your food and then adding it at the end of the day for that like, oh, maybe I missed my protein at lunch or something.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say only drink shakes and only eat like pills for breakfast, right? Like
Yeah.
I would get your meals in, and then at the end of the day, if you are like low on your protein count, have some protein. But I wouldn't rely on supplements. I know some people go crazy about that stuff. I'm not one of them. I'm pretty natural with what I do, and I've had great results just from being active. I think the key is to be consistent. And supplements are kind of those like overnight things where people think they're gonna like burn belly fat and whatnot, but that's not real. It's all advertising. It's a public thing to make money. Don't get me wrong, supplements do work, but from personal experience, I would just say like the hard work and the consistency is what's gonna really like change your attitude, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's interesting, actually.
I 100% agree with you, because it's like ever since like my routine and like changing the way I eat, like I just feel better. I'd say I look better, but only other people can judge that. So, but speaking of food, oh, thank you. I'm flattered. But speaking of food, but someone who doesn't necessarily put much mind into health, Anthony Bourdain. I've been getting really into his first show that kind of blew him up, No Reservations, and it's just fantastic. It's like he just goes places and completely immerses himself in like new cultures. Like his first one was in Paris. He's talking about like Parisian culture, and it's like in my mind, France was full of people who like think their food's the best, and all of it was super bland. But like he really like with his show, it shows you like the level of like it shows you festivals they have and like daily routines that like some Parisians would have. Like he went to this like butchery where you could go out back and eat, and they're all just drinking wine and pounding cigarettes. Like that's the entire place. I was like, damn, I'd fit in there.
I was thinking the same thing.
But yeah, it's just like it's little things like that. Not just so another place he went was Malaysia, and my favorite kind of food is Malaysian food. Like just the flavors and like the way everything is made. I just love Malaysian food. So it's cool. He doesn't just walk on the street and drink and go to any restaurant. He goes to like traditional festivals, and sometimes they are his vibe, sometimes they're not. He makes little snide comments that I laugh at. But yeah, Bourdain is awesome. I've always heard these people talking about him, but I never put the time to actually watch him. And now that I do, I see what made him so big. It's really amazing.
Yeah, what I like about Bourdain is how he always gets to know people from the culture. Like he doesn't just go in and like try and eat the food. He likes to get a story of like the local like traditions, and then like what people do with their lives, what they do on a weekend, where they go. He like actually gets to meet people as friends more so than just like as business acquaintances, which I always thought was interesting about his voyages. Also, he always finds the craziest food to eat and then doesn't have any issues eating it. Yeah. He's not afraid to like try something that by like Western standards or wherever he's going to is like it can seem to him like it shouldn't be like eaten normally, and then he'll give it a try and love it.
Yeah, like
some of the
brains. Times. And when he was in Uzbekistan, he had like brain and liver.
Yeah,
he was like never rule number 1: never offend your host.
Yeah, it's a smart rule.
To, like, immerse himself in the culture.
Yeah,
right, like that's what I
always
like.
Love that
immerse himself in the culture as much as he can.
Yeah, and if it's a place he can't really communicate, he oftentimes gets like a guide. Like, yeah, it's really cool stuff.
Actually, another crazy thing about Bourdain though is because he had mental health issues, and then didn't he end up committing suicide at some point?
Yeah, he did. Exactly. I think it was like 2 years ago, right?
Because if you watch the Joe Rogan Experience podcast one with David Cho, who's a famous artist in New York City. Cho and Bourdain were good friends, and he was talking about how behind the scenes, Bourdain was a lot more trouble than you might be led to believe just on camera. He was always asking for help, but then Cho would say if you actually went to try and help him, you're like, no, Anthony, I'm actually here for you. He'd push you away. Like he would take it serious to an extent, and then if you actually wanted to help him, he'd push you away. I feel like a lot of people are like that, where they
Yeah.
act like they want help initially, but like if you really try and consider it, they just want you to leave them alone. It's kind of crazy. And then Bourdain obviously ended up being so troubled that he took his own life.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was right after he filmed an episode too. I'm pretty sure because if you, it's really sad actually. If you look on his Instagram, there was like he posted about like the food he was having in France, and that was like his last meal. Literally, like the next day, I think they found him.
Yeah, it's crazy though because Joe also struggles with mental health issues himself. He's like, Anthony, we can get through this together. He's like, I'm just as fucked up too. Like Joe had ended up in hospitals and like rehab for mental health problems, and like he went to like I want to say it was the Dominican Republic to go look for an ancient dinosaur that he thought existed in modern
Damn.
times. There's like a news story in the 90s about it, so he went down there with his friend to go check it out. But like him and Bourdain were really good friends because they were both adventurers, and it just goes to show you. I feel like even successful people, a lot of them are empty on the inside to a degree that
Yeah.
people, even like us, don't understand. Like you can have it all, but money only gets you so far. I mean, fame can really hurt people in the long run.
Yeah, and people assume that because they're famous that they
That's
have nothing really to be upset about. Like with Robin
yeah,
Williams, that was a huge thing because everyone was like, "Oh, he's so funny. He's so like he's a great he's like I love watching
Yeah.
him." Like,
yeah.
and then that came out of nowhere.
I mean,
Yeah, and Bill Murray's quote actually kind of sums it up brilliantly. He's like, a lot of people tell me they want to be rich and famous, and I always tell them, why don't you try being rich first? It's true because like that level of fame, people who you don't know are coming up to you on the street. You can basically go nowhere anymore without a bodyguard or some sort of personal protection.
Yeah, like a
Because people will
disguise.
bother you no matter
not
what.
only that, but
It's like,
like
it's
all the
different.
people who like you somewhat connected with in the past are all of a sudden like a lot of them show back up in your life out of nowhere.
Yeah,
expecting
that must
things
mess
from
you up in the mind too.
Yeah. You know?
Yeah, that really puts it into perspective.
Yeah.
Andy, what do you think about all this?
I think when you talked about not knowing about like the background of what people are going through, I think you like hit the hammer on the head. Especially with celebrities, like we don't know what they go through.
No.
We don't know what it's like to be followed around by paparazzi. We don't know what it's like for them to not even be able to go out and have breakfast without cameras following them. And like they're human just like us. They go through really shitty things like we do. And for them to not even have that like safe space to be vulnerable and to be human without being judged by the entire world, it must be really hard. And for it to build up, and obviously they're on social media, and you know, especially people who have like memes of them, that must be really difficult to see. And like Alex was saying about Robin Williams, we all love him. We like no one in the world would ever think that he's depressed. I like to say, like to heal others is to heal thyself. So that's exactly what he was doing. He was trying to heal himself by putting on a show for other people to entertain them. And in turn, he was literally emptying his entire glass just to fill other people's with water. And it's so sad because we don't really think about that with empathy. We kind of take what we want without really thinking about what that person's giving up to make us happy.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, Jake, with celebrities, they could be these huge influencers with like positivity, and we don't know how they got there, but more times than not, the people who are, you know, preaching self-love and preaching all these great things, they've probably gone through it the worst. And I can't remember exactly what the picture was that I posted today, but I had a quote on Instagram and it said like, the people who have gone through like the deepest stuff are usually the most empathetic because they know how painful it is to go through dark times without other people by their side. And I think that goes to show like celebrities, Joe Rogan, like David Goggins, like all these huge names, they've gone through really, really heavy stuff without people by their side.
Yeah.
And sometimes they need the help and they ask for it, but then when the time comes and the help is there, they push it away because it's more painful to try to have someone understand them than to figure it out on their own. And I mean, I don't know exactly what goes on in their lives, but maybe he was asking for help and he thought it would be too much of a burden, so he figured like maybe just leaving the world would be a better decision. And it's really sad when it comes down to that, because I don't want to say it's like selfish, but it's so it can be selfish to a degree where you're leaving behind a lot of people who do love you. You can't see it, but it's also very sad because it's come to the point where they genuinely do not believe their life is important enough to be in the world, regardless of who loves them and what they've contributed to the world. So I think that's a huge topic that you guys brought up in a really great way, that bringing light to that idea that celebrities go through stuff too, and it's hard.
Yeah, yeah, it really is. But to find like a silver lining out of all of it, though, I think one thing people like Bourdain or like Robin Williams really do show is like to enjoy the journey, like enjoy the things around you while you have them, because those are like common things they pointed out. I don't know much with Robin Williams actually, so I can't really say that, but that's what Bourdain's show is all about, right? It's all about enjoying the journey. It's all about like just tagging along.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. And I think with that, we're going to go into a little bit different of a topic on this one. The transition from retail to online stores. As we've mentioned, with COVID-19, there's going to be a lot of changes, not just to people's physical and mental health, but to the economy as well. So fashion retail giant H&M is set to close 250 stores, which marks about 5% of their total retail space. And that's going to come into effect later this year. H&M's total sales have fallen by 16% this year, 4.4 billion, just in the last quarter alone. And new in-store restrictions have put shoppers off coming in stores. And what this just shows is that they're closing a quarter of their 5,000 stores within the next year and a half. And they're starting right now with 5%. I think you can see a lot of what stores are going to start doing is using retail space, probably for online distribution. So if they do keep workers in those retail spaces, it's just going to be for fulfilling online orders, especially this holiday season. Another store that's actually doing about the same thing is Target. Target's not closing retail stores, but they are closing them to the public, and they're going to focus on fulfilling online orders instead of doing retail orders. I think this is actually a really good move that you're going to see a lot of businesses going towards. This is also a great way to directly compete with Amazon, because if you hire these workers, they're hiring 30,000 workers, but they're not serving customers in store. So what those workers are going to be doing are going through the aisles, selecting customer orders for fulfillment. And I know Amazon uses robots, but they also use humans, and I don't really think you're going to be able to compete with Amazon's pace right now. But this is a great way to sell more products than Target would by just opening it up, because retail stores generally have a vicinity that they can serve. It's like 100-mile vicinity where customers could potentially come into your store. It's really not even realistically that big, because how many places can you go where there's not a Target, especially in the Northeast, within 100 miles of you? So there's that's kind of be a great benefit, because this distribution network could potentially get Target like way more sales than they would normally get. Yeah. And I think in the future economy, this is going to prove to be a big shift that will help them towards the future. I'm interested to see what you guys think, if you think that they'll switch back to doing retail only and allowing customers back in the stores, or if you're going to see more stores go over to this model to where they fulfill orders instead of letting or being open to the general public. What do you guys think?
I think Target's making a smart move here, but I think like also what we're seeing, I think like seeing these shifts right now, we kind of talked about it last week, is suburbia is going to be, if people keep going outside while living in suburbia, it's not going to be for like retail and shopping anymore. It's going to be more to enjoy the outdoors, hopefully. But it's like in urban areas, and then like what like modern millennial like fancy like really modern condos and like just massive chunks of land where they put like everything you need, like groceries, retail, and movie theater. Like that's how retail will survive in suburban places. Like that kind of started in the South. And besides cities, of course, I think in cities retail will boom. So like places that can afford to keep urban retail outlets and convert kind of their suburban outlets into like fulfillment centers, that would probably help them a lot.
Agreed. I think that's a really good because you have to have a location with high foot traffic, and I think
Yeah,
what's failing in suburban areas is like you see a bunch of malls closing too. Like they just can't get the foot traffic that's needed, especially in the digital age, to keep the doors open. So what you're going
yeah.
to see, and I should mention actually, H&M is also investing into their online infrastructure, about $1.1 billion as well. So I'm assuming that's going to go into hiring new employees to work in fulfillment.
I actually
Uh,
love H&M.
Same. And what
They're
shows with
great.
me, especially with H&M actually, since they're like a really cheap clothing distributor, is that uh if they can't get the foot traffic in H&M, which is like low price clothes that can serve most people, like you can go in H&M and get like three pieces and not spend that much money realistically. So if they can't get the foot traffic that's needed, this is really only a hint on what's coming to the whole retail sector. Like, I
Yeah,
mean, it's already happening, but H&M closing 250 stores globally is a huge deal. It really
Yeah.
is, because H&M should always have the foot traffic, at least if retail's successful.
I mean, what I think will happen is I think definitely there'll be a significant amount that will close down like that. But I actually think like a lot of malls will stay open because people still like to go shopping there and actually try stuff on in person and look at people like to like look at stuff like going to the mall in those places like Avi was mentioning where there's like it's kind of really suburban or rural. There's not as much like opportunity and options to really like spend your time looking at different kinds of like you don't have as much at like the forefront.
like
So,
for example, like if you're from Londonderry, like why our closest like to go shopping at the mall, that's like what, like a 20-minute drive from like the northernmost part of Londonderry. So
Mm.
that's gas you're burning just to like shop in a mall where like everything's just kind of dying out now. Like instead you can just go on Amazon and have it come right to your house. Like
Yeah.
yeah, but what I'm also saying is that's like also like one of the. I think it's not going to affect all malls because a lot of
yeah,
things like people want to be able to check it out in person, try stuff on, or if they're buying like not just for clothing they want to try it on, but like stuff like watches, jewelry, electronics. People still want that like in person kind of interaction. Like I said, for people in like more rural areas, that's like because in the city you're gonna have small shops. You're gonna have like you can go to every different shop will
yeah.
offer something
This
else.
is where I disagree with
Well,
you,
I
though,
think
Alex, because I think Abhi's right. You need the foot traffic. So in rural areas, it's going to make even less sense for them to operate. Because if they don't have the foot traffic and people aren't buying stuff in the store can't stay open. So you need increased foot traffic to just have a higher margin on
Well, I
the
said it
person that
affects
comes in.
some, but not
For
all.
well
for
also
every
when you
person that
look
comes
at a
in, it
place
should
like
be equal to some value.
when you
If that
look at a
makes
place
sense.
like Massachusetts, retail will do well in Massachusetts because the suburbs are highly populated and like you drive, but it's not that far of a drive to get to the city. Like the malls in Mass are still open. Like every mall I've heard of or seen since freshman year is still open right now in Mass. So I guess
Yeah.
it totally depends on location. Like retail, they're gonna have to start figuring out which locations would be utilized best for online fulfillment, and which locations would still generate some kind of revenue.
I think it's a supply and demand type thing though, because like
Yeah,
I
it is.
say, I feel like some people just enjoy going out shopping in person and being able to try everything on and look at it. Like online shopping is super convenient, but it's just so much more of a process if you have to order a bunch of stuff and it doesn't fit or
Yeah,
whatever, or it doesn't work, you have to send it back. Like I think Jake, you're right, definitely in part where like it's definitely going to affect a lot of shopping centers and definitely more like individual stores, I'd say like big stores, but. I think there's still going to be that like demand people want to be able to like go try out and like new stuff at the mall and that
I'm
kind of.
actually kind of in support right now of breaking up Amazon as a company because Amazon has a death grip over
Yeah, like the back
e-commerce,
the
and it's a
whole like
problem.
Whole Foods, for example,
you
is part
can't.
of Amazon
Yeah.
now. It's
I
kind of
don't
crazy.
Yeah.
actually. Yeah,
It's specifically Amazon though because if you look, every company that's gotten into e-commerce has got a late start because Amazon has been like 10 years ahead at this point. Like even Walmart's behind Amazon. And Walmart's traditionally a retail store, but they're switching over to online. So I think Amazon at least needs to be put at a disadvantage, because if we had more companies that could be successful, it'd be better for the economy. Amazon has a death grip over a huge segment. They've sucked up 20 billion out of commerce in like the last 5 years from mom and pop shops and retail.
Yeah,
So
we're
like
looking at a potential monopoly.
a potential monopoly in retail. So like
It's
that's a
not
problem.
just actually. It's not just retail. If you look
It's
at
not.
if you look at why
Music,
Amazon is able to
fucking
do
everything.
all these things.
Yeah, Amazon Prime too with the
Yeah,
movies
Prime.
and shows.
Well,
They
it's
own
not.
a section of almost everything in the
Well,
economy.
if you look at like the actual reason why they're able to execute all these things so well, it's that they invested heavily in the 90s in establishing physical servers. So they can quickly process like internet for you. Like AWS, Amazon Web Services is huge. They have one of the most complex and like highly used cloud infrastructures of like the modern age.
It actually is. You're right.
So,
It's the number one cloud service
Yeah,
right now.
it's insane.
Amazon has everything though.
They're a
And
data,
Amazon also
they're a
started
data
books,
company
too.
first.
They
Well,
are.
Jeff Bezos started making money with books, and what he did.
Yeah,
with
but I
that
remember
money-
Amazon had the Kindle. They were like one of the first to really do ebooks. I feel like that gave them an
Yeah, but by the time
head
they
start.
reached like the Kindle, like they had invested in their internet infrastructure.
No, I know. I'm just saying they were ahead on a lot of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's why I see them as hard to break up, because of how intertwined they are with, like, even small businesses need AWS now. Like Dunks
I
uses
see-
AWS now. It's crazy.
I see like Elon Musk as the rebel and like Jeff Bezos as like the
The
Sith Lord. Anyway, yeah, so that's it on that topic. Andy, did you have anything you wanted to mention before
Yeah, I
we
was
got
gonna
off?
say, on top of like everything else that Amazon just like is doing so well, they also know how to target the audience. I know for like college kids, what is it, like $6 or like $12 a month? Like they really know how to get people's attention. And then they also have like a family plan where you can get Prime if you've shared it with a family member. So they're pretty smart about their tactics, but again, like you said, they have a death grip. And if other businesses aren't on the same wavelength as them, like they're gonna get killed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the biggest. Like Walmart's getting hit by them. If Walmart can get hit by you, I don't care who you are. Like you're gonna be affected by it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge problem.
For sure.
But yeah, I think that's it for my topic.
All right, so then speaking of having to drive far to go to stores and just traveling a long distance anyways, and rural areas, because sometimes there's not always that much to do, but a good time to visit rural areas, especially New England, is fall. And something I want to talk about a little bit, we did a episode where I mentioned traveling a while ago. I was talking about the Cape. This was back in the summer, and so yeah, just this past weekend, it was a long weekend, and I was away. I was traveling across New England. I like to go every fall. I typically go for like hiking, or we'll go like mountain biking, or we'll just do something like that. We'll go like boating somewhere, just to kind of like, it's just to experience the fall. We also like to go a lot to like kind of like apple orchards, just do like the whole fall experience. But so I decided, because I do this every year, I usually go with my family or like friends. I wanted to put together like a list of like my 5 favorite places in New England to visit for fall. So taking into account like fall foliage and like things to do and like activities. So I'd say number 5 is where I just was last weekend. It's the Connecticut River Valley in Connecticut. So like around Essex, Connecticut, Windsor, like Hartford. South of Hartford more is where it is. That area, see, I shit on Connecticut a lot, being from someone from Mass. I didn't think it was like a really like a lot of nice things to see there. But I've changed my mind a little bit. When I traveled outside of the cities, the countryside there around the Connecticut River, it's actually very nice.
Yeah, Connecticut
And,
is like south of Hartford, like between New York and like Hartford. Connecticut is like gorgeous.
This is propaganda.
Yeah, well, no,
Connecticut's
really. Like
terrible.
I took a boat. I took a boat down the Connecticut River, and like, there's like so much like cool shit there. Like, there's a lot of rich white people with yachts, but like other than that, there's a lot of historic stuff. There's like these old towns that they had from like the 1700s, and there's like some Native American settlements there that are like even way older even.
Yeah.
And there's like the valley's just really nice. There's a lot of good restaurants there, and there's like a historic railway there, and there's like a lot of cool places to see stuff. Like, a lot of rich people do live there, actually. So
Yeah.
there's that, but they
Greenwich.
built a lot of cool shit. Because the Gillette guy, the guy who founded Gillette Company, he has like a castle there.
He lives in a castle. I think we lost
that was
Ben.
really
Wait,
Cool.
Alex.
yeah.
You
We
cut
lost
out
you,
there.
but you're
Yeah.
fine. That's awesome. So, what was your favorite part of
I'm getting a
Connecticut?
bunch of texts. That's what I was gonna say. That area, like the Connecticut
Uh-huh.
River Valley, that's definitely like where I'd say like Essex around there. That area was really nice. Hadlam, like that was nice.
What'd you guys
Greenwich
spend
then I'd
most
say
of your
for
time
number-
doing? Or what'd you guys
What's
spend
up?
most of your time doing? Like, what'd you guys do down there mostly?
I would say most of the time we were kind of just like we were driving around and like hiking on like these scenic areas. And we took, like I said, we took like a boat out on the river, and we were kind of going down the river, and that was really cool. I'd
That's
never
pretty
really
cool.
been down there,
Yeah.
so I saw that place.
You didn't
And,
fish illegally?
No, I didn't fish illegally. No.
Jake, you have to
Where's your
respect the
adventure?
law, okay?
No, you don't. Only when there's fish and game around, you do.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Make my own laws up.
I actually saw. I followed this like Insta like philosophy quote page, and there was a good one. It was like, what value has law when money rules? And I was like, that's where we're living right now. It's great.
It's the sad truth. I mean, that's the other part is like it's just laws are so corrupt at this point. But we don't have to
Yeah,
get into that.
exactly.
We're talking about
Yeah.
Connecticut.
Yeah.
Now we're talking. I was gonna wait. What
Well,
else
that's
did you
why I
say
came
about
up, bro.
Connecticut?
Connecticut.
Okay.
Did you, wait? You were at a country club, right?
No, it wasn't
At
at a
one
country
point, was
club.
it a wine? Was it a vineyard?
I was at
Yeah,
I was at
vineyard?
like a winery. I was at a
How was
winery.
that? How was the
That was
winery?
cool, actually. So there's like there's like it's an orchard. It's like an apple orchard. It's also like a winery, and they make apple wine there. Which I don't know if any of you guys have tried that before. It's like it's not the same as like hard cider. It's different. It's like they kind of make it the same way they make wine out of grapes, but they use apple instead. So it's got more of like an acidic feel. It's
Is
not
it,
as like
sweet.
mulled. It is very sweet, but it's not like it's actually not as sweet as cider, I would say. A lot of them are kind of drier too, sometimes a little, but it's got like a sourness too in it that like not all wines have. So that's
That
kind
sounds
of nice.
interesting. Actually, I'd try that.
I would
It's
do.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty open. I mean, like at the winery, did your parents find a wine you guys liked, or was it?
Yeah, we tried several ones. Actually,
Several?
tried several. Yeah, we bought a couple. We bought this one that they mix cranberry and apple. Then they make a wine out of that. Which is like the
That's
most
it.
New England thing ever, but it's pretty good. Actually.
That is so New England. That's awesome. Well, I mean, I've only been to Connecticut like a handful of times, and I've never been to anywhere interesting in Connecticut. I feel like I'm
Just
always
go to the
driving
rural
through.
areas.
I've enjoyed my
The
time in
cities are
Connecticut,
shit.
like Orange and Bethany.
Hmm.
I saw some really cool stuff. Like there was this reservoir that like technically it's like no trespassing, but like they don't even have a fence. You just walk into the woods and you're there. Like
Yeah.
it's really nice.
I remember the best diss I ever gave Connecticut to Alec was I was like, dude, all your state is a highway, so I can get through it. And he like
Yeah.
laughed.
Just
It's like,
to
you're
provide
kinda
some
very true to me,
context,
though.
Andy, we have a roommate from Connecticut. So.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, the second we walk out, we're just gonna shit on Connecticut again.
Oh, for sure. We almost did a survival trip. You guys remember? He was like trying to get us to go down there and do like a few days in the woods. I think we should do it next year. Like we should actually get out there
I'd
and
do
like
that.
something. That'd be super fun. And like just go fishing. I'd be down for that.
the wait for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty
Alright.
much
So
Yeah.
number 4, I'll go on number 4. I'll try not to rush through these, but number 4 is number 4 that I picked for my list is going to be, where did I put it? It's going to be the Berkshires in Western Mass. I don't know if any of you guys have been out there before.
I haven't.
So a lot of people in like Boston area, like since I grew up like just outside of Boston, we always like to make fun of Western Mass. Like we just think it's like a second world country out there. Because,
I remember the only time I've been to Western Mass for like a prolonged period, was like right after like the ice storm or something, and there was like shredded trees everywhere. I don't know if you ever saw pictures of like trees down in Western Mass, but dude, there's like whole forest areas gone. It's like
Yeah.
just trees ripped in half.
Yeah, they've had some crazy shit happen to them before. They had like, I remember like a couple of years ago they had like a tornado too.
That might have been when it happened.
What is
Maybe.
it? Is it like a lot of nature there?
There's a lot of nature in a lot of the cities. The cities are a little bit like post-industrial, I will say. It's kind of like the Rust Belt almost there. Like the cities are all mill towns, like Springfield, Pittsfield, Deerfield. Like
Yeah.
they're like old, but they're not very like popping. So like it's more nature. It's more like you want to go hiking there, like Mount Greylock's a great hike. And you want to go to like the little villages like North Adams or Williamstown, like right up to the New York State border. That's like a lot of nice scenery out there, nice hikes, and some pretty good skiing too.
Yeah,
And it's not
Yeah.
far from Boston. See, we shit on Western Mass, but like
you
to
give
be
me
fair,
the credit.
Western Mass has like a lot of hidden gems.
Yeah,
Like, has a
honestly,
lot
this
of, like,
kind of sounds like
We should check
Western
this out.
Mass might be a place I'd like to live once I can afford a house and I'm out of college. You get that balance of like being near the city and still being able to like hike and bike and like do
Yeah,
things
it's not-
outdoors.
it's only like 2.5, 3 hours from Boston.
And
It's really
I'm
not that
I'm
bad.
sure there are
That's
some
too
like
far.
just like suburban, isolated, nice houses there.
For sure.
Yeah, actually, I have relatives who live in like Ware, Massachusetts, which is like between Worcester and Springfield, sort of. It's in like where it kind of starts getting more mountainous.
Yeah.
And they had like an estate, like a farm there, and
that's
that
pretty
area is super.
I mean,
nice,
Alex,
yeah.
I'm sure like you've been to New Hampshire. It probably strikes you a lot similar to Western Mass and like the nature aspects and
Yeah, in
Milltown.
some
There's a lot
ways,
of Milltown.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities. I'd say Western
Yeah.
Mass has more almost the vibe of like upstate New York and Vermont, though.
Okay.
I have a feeling New
New
Hampshire
Hampshire.
might be coming up soon in this list.
Yeah.
It's not first.
It's
You guys are
fair.
lucky. It's
Better
not
be
first.
first.
I will say it's not
Oh,
first
yeah?
in the list, though.
Oh, you're wrong. So it's okay.
My number 3 was actually oh, actually one more thing I will say. So yeah, Western Mass. You know who we really should be shitting on? Central Mass, like at Worcester area.
Worcester,
Fuck
dude.
Worcester.
I had to go to
I went there
Worcester
like 2
once.
weeks ago. I was like, what the fuck? I was like, this is a dumpster.
Oh my god.
It
dude.
really is, dude.
Why are you just
It's not the
blaming
best.
Worcester right now?
It's dude, it's like
probably one of the worst cities in Mass, dude.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, because it's big, so I thought there'd be like a lot of cool shit to do. All there is like there's a good concert venue there, the Palladium. That place is cool.
there's like
But other than
one
that-
cool block in Worcester. It's kind of like Manchester's Elm Street, where there's like a nice block, and then like the rest of Worcester, I'm walking around like there's nothing to do here.
Yeah.
It's like
There's like houses that are boarded out.
yeah, there's like literally. I saw a dumpster with an actual couch in it. I was like, this is a vibe.
Bro, if you ever need free furniture, Worcester.
Yeah. Yo, let's go. We need a couch. Let's go tomorrow.
You'll probably find half a couch there.
We'll
Come
put
on,
them
let's
together.
We'll get the Camry. We'll go down.
Yeah.
All right, for my number 3, I said Green Mountains in Vermont. So that's actually one of my personal favorites. But I think I went there like a few times. There's a lot of cool shit. Bennington, Vermont, Brattleboro, Vermont. Those are some really nice areas. Shaftesbury, Vermont. It's like I think Robert Frost actually lived there, like in that area.
In Darien, New
And,
Hampshire.
He
too,
lived in New
actually.
Hampshire.
He lived there
Wow.
too, actually, but he also lived in Vermont for that long. That's where he wrote his poems, a lot of them.
Ah.
But yeah, Vermont's probably like the most isolated part of New England. I think there's not even like 1 million people there.
It's gorgeous
But-
to drive through, though.
It's really
Like,
nice.
when you're driving through, it's like you look to your left and it's like all trees, and you see like one house in the middle of a mountain. You see like one house, and you're just
If
like,
we're being
wow.
fair to Vermont, though, the most isolated part of New England, I bet Vermont as a state is probably the most isolated, but the people in northern Maine are really the most
yeah.
isolated.
Yeah.
Are there even
they're
people
like
in
Canadians who, like,
northwestern
ran the
Maine?
border.
Like, do people
There's, like,
live in
30 of
northwest
them.
Maine?
Yeah, people must live in Northwest Maine, but they probably live in like log cabins.
They sound French Canadian, I bet.
Yeah.
They probably, I said, they're probably just Canadians who don't really like realize where the border ends.
That's like when you live there, you're in territory where like guns are a necessity for survival, for like hunting. You gotta like hunt and dry your meats.
And like, yeah,
Kind of ironic that they want a border wall to the south when more people cross illegally from the north.
oh yeah, it's mad ironic because it's so when you're in northern Maine in Canada, like, you can't tell the difference.
Also,
Yeah, legit.
let's be honest, if there was a border on the north, it'd be paid for by Canada to keep us out of there. Not the other way around.
It's probably way harder to cross through the northern border just because of the terrain, though. Like, none of it's
Yeah, that's
flat.
right.
It's all, yeah.
That's true.
Yeah, it's pretty mountainous. Vermont, something cool that's about Vermont though is Vermont you can actually cross into Canada. Vermont's has the most direct highway to Montreal.
Yeah.
But
Actually,
and
that.
Burlington,
Yeah,
Vermont is really cool, like on the lake there where UVM is. But I'd say Mount Snow in Vermont's one of my favorite sites. And like I said, southern, southwest, and central Vermont, like Bennington, like Brattleboro, there's like a lot of covered bridges there, actually, which
Skiing
is
in
cool too.
Vermont is awesome. Skiing there is so much fun.
Skiing's great, like Killington.
Yeah.
I snowboard more than I ski, but Killington is sick.
I don't snowboard at all, so I only
You
ski.
should try it out. You fall a lot, but you get used to it.
I like skiing. It's fast.
Yeah, it's
So
much faster than
snowboarding.
It's so much faster than snowboarding.
Yeah,
I don't think it is.
It is.
It is.
Snowboarding, you can do cool tricks.
Yeah, but I don't want to like break my neck. I just want to go fast.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd say I've gotten hurt more from skiing than snowboarding. I will say you fall more from snowboarding, but when you fall for skiing, it's fucked.
Yeah, actually,
Yeah.
every
You
like
can fuck
the
yourself
first
up.
couple of times I tried doing jumps, I just completely like just crashed. Like on my back, both my skis popped out. I can kind of do small ones now, but I don't ski enough to get really good at jumps.
Yeah.
It's too expensive for me.
Like, yeah, like those guys in the Olympics blow my mind how they just do that shit.
Yeah, I know,
Yeah.
right?
Moguls,
Left, right,
moguls are insane.
Dude,
How
that's
do people
that's so
do
nuts. Like tapping the
Alright.
flags or
That?
whatever.
Number 2, you're welcome, guys. White Mountains in New Hampshire.
Yeah. Yes.
White
We
Mountains is great. White Mountains. Yeah, you guys can say what you guys like to see in the White Mountains, and I'll let you take this one.
There's a bunch of stuff in the White Mountains.
Yeah,
what
I
are
mean,
what's that
yeah,
cave
what-
area called? Right off the bat, I forget what they're called. Like,
The cave area?
yeah, there's a bunch of
Oh,
caves.
polar caves?
I've actually
Polar
never
caves,
seen
yeah.
that.
I
I
feel like
love
people from
polar
New
caves.
Hampshire,
Yeah.
people not from New Hampshire know the polar caves better than we do. Camping up there, I feel like you haven't mentioned camping yet, but like I bet you the Green
It's not
Mountains
really
are
a
just as
fall
cool.
activity. I'm talking about the fall.
Yeah,
What's
you
cool
can camp
about-
in the fall. Trust me, I've done it
I
plenty
do
of
it more in the
times,
summer.
dude. I've camped in the winter, bro. Suck it
Oh.
up.
Yeah.
You
Oh my
fucking
God,
Bear
I think
Grylls.
we're
Yeah.
winter.
Well,
We die.
I think that was more the fall. Are you talking about when we camped in high school? I think that was
No,
fall. Oh,
no, not then. I'm talking another town when I went with my brothers.
damn.
Like, dude, you
It's
can camp
not
any time of year.
Yeah, you just gotta wear the right gear. You need the right setup.
Oh, for sure. But it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Anyway, New Hampshire White Mountains are great. I mean, I've been to a bunch of resorts up there. There's also the Great
Oh,
Lakes
Washington.
region that's just below them.
Yeah, the
Oh,
lakes
the
region
lake
is
mountains,
amazing.
like
Yeah.
Pisaki, Ossipee.
I feel like
Mountain,
what
all
people
that.
from Mass really like about New Hampshire is our lakes region, because like there's
Yeah.
there's like all the Patriots players have come up and like chilled on Lake Winnipesaukee, and they just all
the
come
lakes
up.
and mountains meet is like super nice. That's why I like it in
Yeah.
the fall so much
Yeah,
too,
it
because
is.
you can take a boat out on the lake and there's just like cliffs and mountains and there's just all this like foliage and you can hike up there. There's like a lot of nice hiking areas and you can see over the lakes.
Yeah, there's so many
And,
nice hiking
also-
areas.
There's the
You know a lot of animals
Kangamangas
there too.
Kangamangas River, which is really cool.
Yeah.
It's like this free flowing. You can like literally take water from the river and drink it. It's like
Yeah.
so awesome up there, and a lot of people like to go swimming and jump off rocks. There's a lot of trout in the water up there. We've gone trout fishing. I've cooked trout from up there before. It's a fun region for
Another
sure.
thing that's
Definitely
cool is
thick
like
territory.
if you're driving through like the towns up there, you can find like just trails that you could drive like dirt bikes or quads in.
Yeah.
I haven't really done much of that, but like I've driven dirt bikes and I'd love to get the opportunity to like drive one through that area. That'd be cool.
I did it in North Conway. That was pretty nice.
Yeah.
North.
Drove
So
an
great.
ATV actually.
North Conway.
I love it.
Did you go to
I've done
Zeb's,
both.
bro?
I didn't go to Zeb's now.
It
Peterborough,
depends.
New Hampshire is
Because
underrated too.
like if the terrain's really tough, ATV's better. But if it's not, I feel like if you have a good trail, it's more fun to ride a dirt bike. So it really depends on where you are. And
I
if you're
just-
going to a place for the first time, usually an ATV would be better because you don't really know what
I
you're
feel
about
like
to get.
I feel like dirt bikes are more maneuverable, so I prefer them. Like
Yeah.
ATVs, you get stuck a lot faster. There's
Well, if you have water though, it tends to be more of a problem for dirt bikes than
yeah, that's true.
ATVs.
Yeah.
Definitely.
That's why like you can drive your ATV through like water that's like 3 to 4 feet high with no
Yeah.
issues.
Yeah.
But dirt bikes
Mhm.
you can't do that.
Nah.
So it's really, but it's more fun to ride a dirt bike because ATVs are generally kind of boring.
They're
It's like
just so,
driving
like
a small car.
boxy. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, and then I'll say for number one, I don't know if you've been here before, but Acadia National Park in Maine.
I've never been actually.
You should definitely check that place out. I think that's actually maybe one of the most like beautiful places in the whole Northeast to go, because you have mountains, like rivers, and the ocean all together.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Like it's like nowhere else is really like it. It's like a group of islands, and there's like trees everywhere. It's like a mix of like green like fir trees, and then also like deciduous trees change color, so you get this like you get so many different colors in the fall. And then there's literally like water, and there's rivers there, and then there's like the mountains just like rise up, and it's like there's nowhere else really like that. I feel like in New England, where like there's the mountains right by the sea like that. And it's like
Yeah.
more of something they have like in the West Coast, but they have it at Acadia. And yeah, you could see a lot of different animals there too, like
Yeah, that
stuff that you
sounds-
would never see in like Mass or New Hampshire. You could see like like different kinds of bears, and like deer, and like moose, like a lot of crazy stuff, like coyotes that I've seen there. Wolves, they still have wolves like that aren't that commonly found in like Mass anymore.
Coyotes.
You could still
ain't
see
shit.
that. Yeah, coyotes are just a bunch of assholes,
Yeah,
honestly.
no, they just make a
Just
shit
annoying.
ton of noise and avoid everything.
And eat people's like pets. They're
Yeah.
just dicks.
Yeah.
They are. Wolves at least are like there's something like majestic about wolves.
Wolves can actually like fuck a person up. Like coyotes, you could like kick one. Like
Yeah, you literally even if you just yell at it, they'll run away.
yeah.
But wolves, yeah, Maine still has like wolves and like several other animals that are like considered endangered. So
Yeah.
I find that really cool
Bears
personally.
are scary though. Bears are scary as fuck.
That's what I was.
Yeah,
thinking,
I don't actually
the whole
know what
time.
kind of. They have black bears there. Black bears can be pretty scary, but also like they're nothing like the grizzly bears. they
Yeah,
have out
grizzlies are
west.
way worse.
Grizzlies are like
Those things will
ferocious.
fuck you up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, what's scary
Yeah.
about bears is if they decide to like attack you, they can like climb faster, run faster, and swim faster. Like, what can you do? What can you do?
You have to. What you're
You
supposed
can't.
to do is you make noise. You make
Yeah.
noise, and you
You're
try to
supposed
like
to make
scare
yourself
them
look
off.
bigger.
Yeah, you have
and,
to,
make
like-
noise.
Like that's what I'm saying. Like, before a bear decides it's gonna attack you, you have to know what to do. Because once it decides it's coming after you, like that's it. So
Yeah. That's it. Yeah. You have to like
Okay.
yell at it, and if you have like a lighter, some sort of way to make fire, that'll scare them off
yeah,
too. But
that's cool.
Yeah, grizzlies.
Yeah.
Grizzlies are so sketch. I'll never forget that one scene in The Revenant when he's like has to
Oh,
attack
yeah.
the bear. Dude. That just shows you like how outweighted the guy was from the grizzly bear. It's like, dude, the thing is a massive beast.
Yeah.
If he wants to get rid of you, you're gone.
I love
yeah, if
that
we're gonna
movie.
go down this road. I
That's
would
a
rather
great
get killed
movie.
by like I'd rather get killed by like a cougar or like a bobcat or something than
And a grizzly.
than a bear.
Yeah,
those
because
Yeah.
it just
that's
flings you around.
Dude, those are
just
just
like
predators. Those things will just like kill you right away. They'll just bite your neck or something. A bear, it's like they're not used to eating just meat. They just like beat the shit out of everything they see.
I know they
The
just
bear will literally like grab you and maul you and just like take
still
down.
alive, and it's just
It's just literally turning into Joe Rogan's podcast.
Yeah.
Now. I just have to pull the plug on this. But anything else you guys want to say about traveling around New England or any sites you like to see in New England in the fall?
I wanted
What's
to
your
add,
favorite
like,
place, yeah?
I'm in Newport. The one thing
Yeah.
that's really unfortunate is that the foliage is nothing like New Hampshire.
yeah.
Like every fall, I'm reminded how horrible it is in comparison to New Hampshire. Like the leaves don't really have that like, oh, red, orange, yellow. They just die. Like there's literally no color.
Yeah.
Every time although when you go to like Fall River or like Tiverton or Taunton, Mass area, like when it's still kind of near Rhode Island,
Yeah.
we see a little bit more color, or even like Exeter, Rhode Island, there's color. But like the apple orchards, I know Londonderry is literally known for their apples. I went apple picking, and all of them are like the size of a golf ball. Like it is not New Hampshire at all, and I
Yeah.
forget that I'm not like literally surrounded by foliage and beautiful colors, and it's just you can't pretend that you're in New Hampshire when you're not. It's just so
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, like
Like,
Mass
I
has some color, but it doesn't even
There's not
compare
enough
to like
trees
just,
around us.
like just
Mhm.
driving on the roads in Londonderry. It's like it's
Yeah.
so different.
There is
Well, I'd
like
say
the
Rhode
other
Island
thing.
especially is like since it's so much water, like so much ocean near it, it's kind of it doesn't really get that like it's more gradual from like the hot to cold weather. Like it's those places like New Hampshire, Maine, Vermont when it goes like all of a sudden to like cold. That's when the leaves
Yeah.
all turn color.
The other
Mhm.
thing is like I guess we can mention it since you mentioned like beautiful nature spots. Is like when you're out in nature, there's like a deep connection that you can feel to it. It's like a crisp
Yeah.
air, like a cold, crisp air, and it's like it's weird because like when you're alone out there, it's like a solemnness, but it's like almost like the origins of where people came from,
Yeah.
like, in general.
No, I feel that.
Mhm.
I love
I
being
agree.
out in like the
Big
mountains, the woods.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think Rhode Island is definitely more of like a spring, summer kind of state.
Huge touristy spot in the summer.
Yeah.
Like everyone and their mother is there. I
for
Yeah.
swear.
sure. I feel like Rhode Island, and the Cape are like the two spots that everyone goes
Yeah.
for summertime.
This summer.
What's nice about
Yeah,
like
Eastern
being
Mass.
in, like,
Eastern Mass is more for summery, and then Western is more for fall.
yeah.
I love the Cape. It's the only place I've gone to. Although to be fair, I haven't gone to Rhode Island's beaches, so I'm assuming it's probably the similar. But it's the only place I've been to in New England where it actually feels like somewhere more tropical than where we are. It feels like actually like you're in a different part of the country when you're down in the Cape,
Yeah.
especially in the summer.
Rhode
Yeah.
Island beaches are amazing, and that like
They're beautiful.
yeah.
I'm sure it has like a similar feel to where it's like you're in almost in a different part of the country.
Yeah.
The water in the fall. So again, I'm gonna sound like I'm absolutely out of my mind. I go swimming at the beaches. Like, I mean, not right now because it is getting a little bit colder, but in September, like halfway through, when it was getting gradually colder, I was swimming and the water was so warm. The water in New Hampshire, I swear to God, it's like 50 degrees in August. I'm like, what
Yeah,
the
it's
hell?
is.
always cold.
So
It's
cold.
always cold.
I'm
The
like,
Cape is like the
what?
divider.
I
Yeah,
think
it
Like
is.
south of the Cape, it's actually kind of warm, and north of the Cape, it's always brick.
Yeah.
Well, actually, what I've noticed with the Cape is like where the Gulf or where like the Gulf angle is, like
Yeah,
inside the
the
coast.
bay is cold.
The bay's. You think the bay's cold? I think the bay is
Well,
warmer.
it depends where you
Dude,
are.
the
actually.
Atlantic's
Yeah,
fucking
I was about to
cold.
say,
Oh,
is
yeah,
that
the
because
East
of
Coast is cold.
yeah, is that
East
because
Coast
of,
is cold, bro.
is that because of
the
like
bay, you're right, it can't be.
like that stream that goes all the way to Britain? It's like from the Gulf of Mexico.
Gulf.
Is that where it like turns away? Is that where it turns
I don't
away
think so.
from like America?
It
Like,
turns
so.
away at like Long Island a little bit, and then it
Oh,
also
okay.
turns away even more at the Cape.
I think
It's
it
like,
has something to
like
do with how much weaker the current is in the bay compared to like on the eastern coast of the Cape,
Yeah.
dude. It's the like over in Wellfleet, dude, on the east coast, dude. That water is cold.
yeah.
That water is cold, and
Oh,
it's like the
it's
waves
not
are
that
hard.
though, which is nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. The bay, you're right. The bay's a lot
Right.
more warmer and calmer.
Alex,
You're
your
right.
mic.
Yeah. Anyone else have anything else they want to add? Alrighty. So I think actually I was gonna mention this to Avi before the show, but I didn't actually do it. I think we're gonna postpone stock picks of the week until after the election because I think we're both out of the market. We're not really watching it
Yeah.
right now. And if you took our advice, you would take your money out somewhere around now and wait because generally, if people don't know, there tends to be a lot of loss of value post election, even if
Yeah.
the winner is like the current sitting president. So I think it's a good time to pull the money out and just wait and see how the election results are. Because in general, it does shape value anyway. So
I fully agree, honestly.
we're gonna return after the election. We wouldn't have had great picks anyway this week if we're being honest.
I don't think I've had good picks for the last 2 weeks, but
So I figured we'd postpone it. But with that, we're gonna go into lessons of the week.
all
Who wants to
right.
start off?
I started
Last time, so I think it's on us.
Yeah.
Um,
It's time to think now. Time to use our brains.
ooh, this is tough. I didn't even think of the lesson before now. We can just cut this part out anyway. Just remember that there's only one
I
part you
kind of
really.
like leaving it. I feel like it adds character.
No, you should just cut this part. Actually, you left too much last episode, so.
Alright, well, I have a lesson I can do then. Alright, so mine was actually something I was gonna mention earlier, to you, Andy, when you were talking about like kind of like the life of being like a student athlete and like then being able to be part of these kind of clubs, these extracurriculars, and something that I feel like I struggle with because I'm like part of the Suffolk Journal here, Suffolk Soccer Club. I'm part of like I work in the city, and then I'm taking classes. Something I've always struggled with is trying to balance my life. And I was actually gonna ask you a little bit earlier about some tips on balancing because like this is my lesson that I have is I think you kind of gotta make priorities and kind of choose what's important, what you want to focus on. So like I have to balance between all that and then seeing like my friends and seeing my family and like seeing my girlfriend. Like everything is like there's so much going on, and then I have to make sure I give like what needs the attention, and then but I can't like forget on like stuff that's important like schoolwork because I always get like these assignments that will like pop up out of nowhere. So like I just think prioritizing, trying to like manage time. So just trying like when I have a moment, doing some work, but then also not like overwhelming myself so I don't forget about other stuff because like that's just kind of my lesson. And I was just actually going to ask you earlier if you had any tips additionally on that.
Yeah, I think those are all really great points. To like kind of add on to what you've already said, I think time management especially is like a huge key factor. Prioritizing in terms of what needs to get done, what's the most important thing, or maybe like in terms of working and studying and like classwork, and then the things on the side like your social aspect. I think setting like healthy boundaries, like I said before, like knowing yourself, knowing people around you. When you set those healthy boundaries, you're saying like, oh, I have an hour or two of this time, we can hang out here, and then go back, do your 2 hours of homework, go to work, do those things that you have to get done. But I think being able to like write out a schedule is really helpful. And I'm a victim of it too. I sometimes will find myself doing nothing for like 3 hours at a time, and I could have used that for homework, or I could have used that for something that was really important. But being aware of the things you need to get done is really important, so you can knock those off right away, and then you have more time to be around the people that you want to be with. And then lastly, just one thing to add on, make sure that you're not overwhelming yourself, because like you said, you're trying not to do too much. Do things that make you happy. I don't know if Jake and Abi know, but I mean, I think they do know. I used to play soccer. I played for like my entire life, and then I stopped when I went to college, and I only played softball. The other day, I bought a soccer ball because I just miss playing so much. Like being able to have your downtime after you've done those important things is so like significant to your health. Like kicking a soccer ball or even juggling for like 5 minutes is I know is gonna make me happy. So doing those things that make you happy is important, but also making sure you're getting those like number one, number two priority things out of the way so that you can enjoy your time without it being a stressful thing or without things feeling like a chore. Because obviously you want to see your girlfriend, you want to do soccer, you want to do journalism in school, but you need to find a healthy balance where you're not overexerting in all those areas because it's going to become really horrible and it'll change your attitude. So I think everything you said is great, but time management, huge thing, and then prioritizing. I agree with you with that.
I have one. Okay. Finally, I thought of one. It's actually good for this week. Support other people, and kind of defend them to some degree. I feel like it's very easy to disagree with someone, but to be the bigger person and hear them out and maybe try and understand where they're coming from, it's very important. And I think we've all learned a great deal this week of how unfortunate certain events can be and the consequences of not only action but repercussions that I don't know, you can agree with them, you can disagree with them, but just their overall effect and the effects they have on other people.
Like bringing a guest onto this podcast.
Maybe. So, I mean, I don't want to get into the nitty gritty because, I mean, we're past it, but we learned a lot. And I just want to thank a certain party for allowing us to have a large gain in viewership this week. That was really good. So we appreciate all the added viewers and subs. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, anyone else have one?
All right, so my lesson, I guess I'll round it back to the beginning of the episode when I was learning about mindfulness. I also learned that I need to kind of focus on basically taking time to just experience myself and what I'm feeling, like kind of knowing what emotions I'm feeling at a certain time, or just what kind of where I am, things like that. Taking time out of the day to think about those things, I feel like can really help better your life.
Mm-hmm. I think it's a good one. I actually have a lesson that I want to share with you guys. It sounds a little goofy, but I would say be a little deaf sometimes. And when I say that, I mean, don't take things so personally. I know people say things all the time out of anger or out of emotion or out of some random thing that's going on. When you're a little bit deaf and you pretend you don't hear those harsh things, or you're like, okay, I know that has nothing to do with me. When you're deaf, you can be a little bit more at peace. I know a lot of people take things personally and they're like, well, why would they say that to me? Why would they do that? Why are they treating me this way? It probably has nothing to do with you. So if you're a little deaf and you're like, okay, they said that, it doesn't really mean anything to me, you're more happy and you're not worrying about why they were so rude, and you're not trying to get revenge or getting back at them. You can just pretend you didn't hear it. There are a lot of things, my coach specifically, I'm like, oh, I didn't hear that. She was a real bitch, but I did not hear anything she just said. You really just put the earphones in and block it all out.
Yeah.
It's a great one, actually.
That is a really good one. Mm-hmm. Jake, you're muted.
I said I hope some of our viewers, or maybe specifically a large group of them, take that advice.
A large group of last week's viewers.
Yeah.
All
right.
Andy, thank you for coming on. You've been a really great guest.
Thank you for having me. I've never done anything like this, but I've had a great experience. You guys are awesome. And I also want to say this is really cool that you're doing this. Taking the time to just, talk about different opinions and ideas, I think it's really admirable. So kudos to you guys for doing this. It's really awesome.
We appreciate it. Yeah. We also agree with her, so everyone out there, subscribe. Thanks for tuning in.
Leave a like as well.
Leave a like, and have a wonderful night. Thanks, guys.